Alright, now to actual number 5.
Yep.
All Might from My Hero Academia. Specifically before he gets depowered from his fight against... well, I won't say his name because some people still haven't been keeping up.
For those watching on Toonami,
yes.
You haven't gotten there yet. But
now this seems like an odd choice because while All Might is strong, he's fairly standard compared to a lot of the DBZ fighters, but he's still up there. We've seen his punches reshape landscapes, cause weather phenomenon. And these are just the after effects of his actual hits.
Yeah.
He outpunched a creature who could absorb damage.
Yeah.
That says something. But also with that, he is a professional superhero. He knows how to combat people without using excessive force. He knows how to restrain, how to take down without killing. And in the rules with the tournament power, that's very important.
Now for a lesson. You may have heard these words before, but I'll teach you what they really mean. Go beyond! Plus!
Brings me to my number 5, and continuing from the Sailor Moon universe, my number 5 is Sailor Mercury. Similar to everything I brought up with Jupiter, is that as a primal, almost deity of the element of water, there's a lot that can be done with that, but Mercury is bringing more to it than, of course, just water manipulation. Her tech capabilities and her own strategy. As you'll notice, my team hasn't had really much in the strategy or smart people format, unless you want to count Mewtwo and his super genius IQ or whatever, which would probably matter now that I think about that. But Mercury has an IQ over 200. Her computer isn't technically a weapon, and there is no law against it. I'm sure she can scan for people's weaknesses. She could probably adapt very quickly, as we've seen her do in the show. And again, if Lambda Power did somehow give all of the abilities, well then the two most valuable things you're going to have is one is strategy and the other is actual fight capability. No offense to the rest of the Senshi, but in this tournament situation, those are the important factors. Venus, love you, but your charisma isn't going to get us very far right now. But again, the ability to use these things in a way, she would of course be able to work well with Jupiter. The two can tag team pretty well. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm sure she and Mewtwo would be able to come up with some pretty good strategies while staying kind of near each other and act as buffer. So that's my number 5.
I am the pretty guardian who fights for love and intelligence. I am Sailor Mercury. Douse yourself in water and repent.
Alright, and that goes to my number 4. And this is a big one, especially since it's from one of the big 3 of shonen anime.
Yeah.
Hashirama Senju from Naruto. My word, is this guy overpowered. And that's saying a lot given shonen anime. But consider this fact. Hashirama was briefly mentioned in flashbacks and background information and appeared in one fight. And yet he's up in tier with all the other big-name fighters from that universe and above. He combats Madara on multiple occasions, and they're pretty much a dead-even match. And by golly, what else do you need? Add to the fact that he's also a trained ninja, which means that stealth, silent takedown, quick movements, all that stuff that is necessary to sneaku. And when he needs to, he can whip out the giant wooden Buddha statue of death.
Yep.
It's pathetic compared to what Hashirama Senju was able to accomplish. He could heal wounds without even weaving a single sign. In every jutsu he attempted, he was in a class by himself. Everyone viewed him as the ultimate shinobi.
For my number 4, I went with Tsukai Soraka from Kato the Right Answer. You're going to have to hear me out a little bit on this one, I think, but
that anime.
Yeah, I'm not too pleased with how it ended either, but Tsukai seems to, Tekking brought up the need for a healer, and Tsukai does seem to be a very capable healer. And when I say that, what you see in the anime kind of belies the power behind this, I think, and why many, if you just watch that anime and take it at face value, you're definitely going to go, why is she on this list? But the concept is that she and certain other characters are able to tap into a a higher dimensional plane. And we don't really see that in anime very much. So,
or at least not taken to this technical extreme.
Right, and if we want to get, again, strictly technical, typically characters that can tap power from another dimension higher make them exceedingly potent, because that means that regular laws of our reality no longer apply to them. So somebody who is able to fire energy blasts, deflect energy blasts, and heal, but not just on our reality, but the reality beyond this one, makes her exceedingly viable, at least in my book, and if we're going by that form of mathematics. So she was sane. There's a reason for me saying that if you haven't watched the show. And I do know that there were other characters more powerful than her, one of which is a bit of a spoiler, but it just felt unfair to pick a character like that, because what becomes the point? And certainly the other character more powerful than her is kind of nuts, so I really wouldn't want them on my team.
Yeah.
So, we have a person who had an interest in our universe, our reality, our dimension, wanted to protect it, and I think they would be happy to go and fight in the Tournament of Power if it meant protecting that again.
Humans bloom and wilt within a single instant, so fleeting in the flow of this universe. But they fill that instant with all of the life they can, burning so brightly for that brief moment. And I love it. Humanity. That's why I'm here.
So,
and that comes to my number 3, and my pick for a technical villain on the list, but given the circumstances of the Tournament of Power, I think that they would be okay with it. And also my second choice from a single anime, Madara Uchiha from Naruto. My word, the guy... we've had discussions many times over about how broken and overpowered the Sharingan is. And even if we're not talking about the Madara who eventually becomes the Jinchuriki of the Ten Tails, and that's a whole nother level, he's got formation of nearly impenetrable armor, flames that can burn through other fire, hypnosis on extreme degree, battle prediction, all this other stuff. And that's on top of, just like Hashirama, he's also a trained ninja. He knows how to do things subtly and quietly when need be, even though he throws subtlety out the window near the end of the series.
Yeah. And he's even proved to be a capable martial artist when facing droves and droves of enemies.
It would be a technical question of putting both him and Hashirama on the list, but again, while they had their clashes, They at one time were friends, and I think that they could put their beefs aside for the sake of the universe.
We would hope so, anyway.
Yeah.
People desire peace, and yet, on the other hand, they crave conflict as well. That duality is mankind for you. To want only peace and to discard only conflict would in fact cause people to stop being people. And those two things stand together side by side.
So, yeah, this brings us to my number 3 is Leo Regulus from Saint Seiya. Now, oh, hello again, Asterisk, but Leo is in the anime, but unfortunately they've decided to stop the anime just before his big arc. So, I mean, he's in an anime, but only in a manga will you get to see everything that he is actually able to do. First thing I really want to point out, though, is a lot of you are probably going to say, oh, but they're the cloth, the armors, that's weaponry or that's armor. And here's the thing, though, is I do want to say that the cloths are not weapons and they don't contain their own source of power. They can only reach their potential if the wearer is burning Cosmo. If they have no Cosmo, then it's totally useless. They're pretty much just, they're there as a focal point. I think that this still is an applicable thing to wear. Not only that, but we've seen repeated times that Zeno seems to let things happen just because it looks cool. And I think...
Hate that guy.
But I do think that the cloth are cool enough that Zeno would let it happen. But I did try and go through Saint Seiya to pick characters who don't use an actual weapon because of that, just to try and make sure that there was no other further, hey, wait a minute. But in Leo's case, similar to the choice for Madara or Kakashi, people that have the Sharingan, Leo has a natural ability that any technique he witnesses, he can then replicate perfectly. To the point, he even is able to replicate an attack that usually requires 3 gold saints, and he just does it on his own just because he saw how it was done. His natural ability is plasma. He's able to move beyond speed of lights very easily. As a fighter, he's exceedingly skilled. I mean, he's able to adapt. Almost every Saint Seiya character has kind of a built-in Deus Ex Machina that they're kind of immune to any technique that's used on them once. Then they kind of go like, oh, I know how that worked. I'm not going to be affected by it.
Hacks.
Yeah, it really is hacks. If I had to, I will say though briefly, if we had not picked, I mean, you want to talk about hacks though, that's the whole thing about Sharingan, like, oh, let me look into your eye. Oh, hello, you're in an illusion.
Yeah.
Infinite Tsukiyome. So.
And what's the point of this list if not to pick the most hacks things possible?
I mean,
without going overboard.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that some of, there were certainly a lot from Saint Seiya that I had a hard time trying to pick from just because they are a really powerful anime. But I liked Leo because of what he did in the manga, and I really hate that it's not going to get animated. So he's here for that. If I had to pick somebody who at least somewhat showcased their capabilities in the anime, I would probably replace him with Virgo Shaka, who, is also get into your head, able to, easily put you in like an infinite illusion. He could create universes or galaxies in his attacks and destroy them. He could seal people's souls away or remove their senses until they just stood there and you just go push them gently off the edge. I mean, if I had to get technical, but yeah, no, number 3 was definitely Leo Regulus. So.
見切れるか俺の高速の牙がライトニングプラズマ
And now comes to number 2, and this is a big one for me that had a huge asterisk because he had to do some research to make sure that he could actually even function in this setting. But Simon the Digger from Gurren Lagann. And yeah, the big problem with that is that he couldn't go into the tournament with Gurren Lagann or any of the other gunmen. But looking at it closely, Spiral Energy is just that perfect hacks for a power source.
Yeah.
And we've seen him alone, without the mech, tap into it to do some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And on top of that, yeah, in case you haven't guessed already, he's my pick to be the master for Berserker.
Right.
Because
it's just a limitless battery pack, pretty much. If Spiral Energy transfers in any way, shape, or form to mana,
which I think so.
I think it can. Yeah, Berserker's not going to be at want for any energy. Berserker will probably get thrown out of the ring or crushed before he would run out of power at that rate.
And he would probably take down at least a few people along the way.
He would probably grab someone and take them with him. But I mean, Simon practically becomes a deity at the end of, Lagann, so...
By the end of that series, he has become one of those myths of his world. He is a legend.
Yeah, and I mean, if we're getting into our top, 2 slots, I mean, in the Dragon Ball Super, the top 2s, we have Vegeta, we have Toppa. Toppa kind of becomes the next god of destruction for his universe's ability. So, the semi-god people
fit in that category.
Seems to fit.
The dreams of those who have fallen, the hopes of those who will follow. Those 2 sets of dreams weave together into a double helix, drilling a path towards tomorrow. And that's Tengen Toppa. That's Gurren Lagann. My drill is the drill that creates the heavens.
Which brings me, I guess, to mine. Which my number 2 is Pegasus Seiya from Saint Seiya. Again, there's technically possibly others who are stronger, but we see Seiya at his peak able to at least punch and take on Apollo, or at least, bruise him, which, given that Apollo is a god who just kind of rewrites the universe by blinking, to be able to touch them is kind of an impressive feat.
Did you give Cthulhu a black eye?
Yeah. I mean, at least you gave Cthulhu a black eye. Not many get to say that. I mean, even as such, I think he's one of the best. I mean, he does get, again, kind of plot armor, but so do Vegeta and Goku and Jiren. So, I mean, I think if we're talking people that can dish it out as well as they receive it, Seiya in his God Cloth can hold his own for quite a while. Even if Athena isn't there to directly influence it.
人間をかばうあなたとは結局相入れることはない。もはや問答は無用のようだ。さあ、人間のために死ぬがいい。沙織さん。何？何？バカな。人間がここまで世を苦しめるとは。
So, I guess that now brings us to the number...
Well, honorable mentions first.
Oh, yes, honorable mentions.
And yours is long, so I'll do my single honorable mention.
All right, go ahead.
Honorable mention for me, Haruhi Suzumiya. I briefly wanted to put her on the list, but then ultimately I declined for the fact of even to the very end of the series, we are not sure of exactly how much control over her abilities she has. Yes, she is god tier power, but what's the point of that if you do not have actual control? And basically, if I did put her on the list, she'd basically be sitting on the side, and I'd be hoping and praying that she does some reality warping subconsciously to make us win.
Yeah, which I mean...
Which isn't a bad thing, but I'd like a little more surety.
Yeah, and, I mean, who wants to go into the fight like, oh, let's flip a coin, I sure hope, by auto-win happens. Which, my list, God, there were so many that came close. From Fate, I briefly had a huge consideration for Karna. Karna actually can manifest his noble phantasm as his eye. His damage reduction level was absurd. He had speed and power. But ultimately, it just kind of came down to he still would not have been at 100% without his other noble phantasms. And true to form, we don't know how much death he would have been wreaking. It's kind of hard to tell. And there was a lot from Fate that seemed to fall into this, like, well, what are they, asterisk? So we just felt, I had enough with the video game people, I wasn't going to even try. I also had, from, again, video game to anime, Digimon. I have honorable mention to both Alphamon and Omegamon/Omnimon. Alphamon, exceedingly powerful, but it kind of depended which version of Alphamon you got, if it was pro-helpful or negative. And though Omegamon has always been good, every version of him, it just felt kind of cheese to pick him, especially considering he has an ability that lets him foresee all these different aspects. I mean, if you parked him with Mercury, with Mewtwo, I get the feeling it just wouldn't have really been fair. And then, of course, weapon, well, he's got a cannon on an arm, and he's got a sword on the other.
But they're part of him, question mark?
So, again, rather than run a risk, I just asterisked and just went, nope, I've got enough of those, so you go to the honorable mentions. I know I'm forgetting a bunch of others, but as of right now, it's just kind of like, why?
He has a full data file full of
there was a bunch of people. So, yeah, I think the only other, definite, I kind of wanted, but I couldn't, had to go to the people from, When Doves Cry. Basically, I mean, they're able to rewrite truths and use that as reality-altering weapons, but...
In debate
form. And yet, how would you have used it? I mean, I'm sure they could have done so successfully in Dragon Ball, but all the poor Dragon Ball people wouldn't stand a chance because they're all kind of dumb. And so they would just not know how to react to this, or it would just turn into a typical shonen, my willpower is stronger, and they would just, push through, and I just didn't even want to, not going to go into that. So, but that does bring us to our number one pick.
And want to say at the same time?
Sure, 3, 2, 1. Tenchi Masaki from Tenchi Muyo.
The guy... Oh, well, first of all, to explain to those that aren't as familiar with the series, they have a thing in that universe called the Wings of the Lighthawk, which are basically manifestations of acts of God.
Reality warping at the umpteenth level.
And Tenchi was already caught the eye of 3 goddesses in this universe because he could manifest 3 of the wings.
And just as a note, the only thing that can stop a wing of the Lighthawk is another wing of the Lighthawk. And ultimately, it's said that only 10 can exist in a universe at any one given time, or the universe explodes.
And on top of that, and this is a minor thing that most people even familiar with the series don't know that happened, Tenchi achieved what is commonly referred to as Kami mode, where he becomes the embodiment of a wing of a Lighthawk.
I mean, he basically is the god of that universe. He is able to rewrite history, he's able to change things, he's able to fight. He has transcended everything of that universe. Even the 3 goddesses who kind of make it.
And even despite all that, he's still a decent guy, which is actually a very big pro in this.
Yeah.
Though, the time that he did achieve Kami mode, it was against a villain who had 5 wings of the Light Hawk, and it became this horrible clash of, Tenchi would try and use his, he would use 3 of his to negate his, and then use the other 2 to attack it. And, when he achieved this perfect Kami mode, rather than just go in and guns blazing, beating up the guy to a pulp, he actually traveled back to the past, found the point where this guy went down this horrible path that turned him evil, and actually gave him a good life.
Yeah, and saved countless lives at the same time. There was a war, and he goes back and pretty much just goes, no war, and fixes it. Ultimately, yes, this does seem a little bit of a, cop-out, I guess you could say. But the difference between Kami Tenchi, I feel, and every other,
reality warping,
overpowered character, Tenchi doesn't actively tap into this on a whim. It happens as a self-preservation mechanism, which means Tenchi would not just go into the Tournament of Power, blip Kami mode, it's fixed.
He would probably go into the fight to manifest the wing to act as a saber for himself. Fight normally, but then if things got desperate, he could then potentially tap into this alternate mode and, let's face it, wreck shop. In the most peaceful way possible, which take that to the no-killing rule.
Right, and, there's just also, of course, at least for my team, that's why I picked Ryoko. He's certainly, if something happens to Ryoko, he's going to be all the more wanting to step in and fix things. Tenchi was just a pure soul, and he really, cared about people, and I think he's kind of the best representation for the anime universe about trying to take care of people and those around him without being too preachy about it. He knew the people around him were imperfect and screwed up, but he still cared about them. Tenchi was both our easy number 1, and yes, we do know he would not have access to the Jiraiyan Key as a sword.
Yeah.
Kind of doesn't need it when he can easily go, Wing of Lighthawk sword, Wing of Lighthawk shield, Wing of Lighthawk armor, there I go. Added to that, even when he wasn't a master of his Kami mode or anything, even when we removed Kami mode, he was able to fly through black holes easily due to the Wing of the Lighthawk. So, when you're able to basically change reality 3 ways to your whim as a weapon and a shield, you got a good shot at being fine. And when he, even in the OVA, when he cut through Sojo, which was supposed to be several dimensions thick, and didn't even really blink at it. So, I think he's got the offensive capability to stand against people like Jiren and Goku.
And he doesn't even need to tap into his full power. Manifest one Wing of the Light Hawk as an ultimate knockback maneuver.
Yeah.
With no damage.
Yep.
Poof.
So...
Ohayo, Kenshi.
Ohayo, Tenchi ni-chan. Nanika ii koto atta no?
That concludes our top 10 list for Tekking 101's Tournament of Power Tag Challenge. I guess the only people I know to tag is I can tag Don and Haniel Shelby are the only 2 I know who might be watching.
I don't know if anybody off the top of my head who would be watching and interested in doing, but
tell you what,
if you're watching and you're interested, go play, have fun.
And please, comment your top 10 lists down below, or send us a link and tag us with yours in your video. So anyways, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Later.